Hello, I'm journalist and comedian James Mullinger. 6 years ago, I left London, England and moved to St. John, New Brunswick. Since then, my stand-up career has taken me to just about every town and city in Atlantic Canada, which, let's face it, has provided plenty of material. But I've also come to realise that this place is special and, crucially, underappreciated. So my wife Pam and I started a magazine, the Maritime Edit, to celebrate its natural beauty and the incredible spirit of the people here. But now, I'm embarking on a tour to meet some of Atlantic Canada's most interesting and dynamic people and chat with them about what drives and inspires them and hear what they love so much about this place that we're all so proud to call home. Today I'm meeting renowned architect and Ontario export Omar Gandhi. Omar studied architecture at Dalhousie University, and in 2012, at the age of just 30, he started Omar Gandhi Architect, his own design studio and architectural practice in Halifax. His unique vision and far-reaching insight and creativity have led to some of the most blisteringly stunning developments in North America, both commercial and private. He's the recipient of many awards and distinctions, including being named one of Monocle Magazine's 20 most influential Canadians and one of the top 20 young architects in the world by Wallpaper Magazine. Today I'm meeting Omar on his rooftop patio, followed by a site visit of one of his most exciting ongoing projects. I'm James Mullinger, and this is Atlantic Edition. Omar has achieved so much in such a short time. I mean, he's one of the world's best architects, based here in Atlantic Canada. I remember when my wife Pam and I left London, and there was such a buzz amongst our friends that we were moving to the same part of the world that Omar Gandhi had just set up shop. I mean, he's someone that, like me, moved here by choice. And I just can't wait to learn about how the region embraced him and what it was like kind of breaking new ground and what it's like to be a global company based in Nova Scotia. We're headed to meet Omar at the rooftop patio of his soon-to-be-completed new home and studio space, and I can't bloody wait. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, man, how are you?
Great to see you, man. Very good to see you. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you for coming over. Come sit down.
Thank you. This is spectacular. Where are we?
We're in the north end of Halifax on Creighton Street. So this is going to be our home, and it's also going to be the studio.
Amazing.
And it's in construction right now, so really just enjoying one part of it that's completed for the moment.
Right. So you started with the party spot.
Yeah, that's right.
That's genius.
That's right.
There's a beautiful smell of wood here.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's covered with white cedar, red cedar on the ground. So yeah, it's a nice little escape.
I guess that's a really good place for us to start. Like, you obviously grew up in Brampton. What was it that brought you to the east?
You know what? I think like a lot of people who live in the suburbs or live in a big city, I was actually just looking to get out of the Toronto area.
Right.
And so I decided to come out here for school back in 2001, but didn't really know much about the East Coast at all. So it was a bit of a gamble, but I think that was the motivation at the time, was to really just get away from there.
What was it about the course at Dal that attracted you, and also why architecture?
For architecture, I studied art growing up, and I went to a regional art school. So there was a real focus of the visual arts for me. And then I think it was really about picking a career that, you know, could take advantage of some of those skills that also would probably appease my parents. So, you know, it was like, you know, certainly pushed a little bit by my dad, but I thought it was an awesome idea right off the bat. You know, I ended up coming here because it's an old school, it's really well known, kind of known for making things, you know, like you get your hands dirty in this school.
Amazing. And what were your first impressions when you got here as someone that had obviously grown up in a much bigger city and arrived here not knowing anything?
I mean, it's a place with a lot of history, right? I mean, there's a richness to that history. And I think the deeper you look, that kind of, you know, the quality and texture of that history is that much more beautiful, especially about the histories that we don't learn in school. And so, yeah, I mean, I think the longer I stayed and the more I invested, time-wise into learning about things, it became a more beautiful place, for sure.
Of course, then in 2010, you kind of added entrepreneur to your list of things when you set up your own firm. What kind of led to that decision? And that's incredibly a big thing to take on.
I got laid off.
Right.
Yeah, man, I got laid off.
That's always the best thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the push that we need.
It's the push, right? And it was like a combination of being laid off, but also not wanting to work anywhere else.
Right.
And so it certainly was the plan maybe way down the road, but for, that time, it was really just, I think, a little bit of anger. I wanted to prove myself I could do it. And also just about survival. There's like a pride side of it too, right? Like I can, do this. I just wanted to kind of nail everything that came my way. And so, it really was about staying in my attic, and then eventually a really, really small space, and then eventually a student helped me. And so it was very incremental, because I think I realized early on that financial control is a huge sort of asset in creative fields.
Yeah.
I didn't want to owe money, and so it was really just as much as I could afford to do was as much as I did.
You want each project to have a story, and this is the thing that I've always loved so much about your work, is that it stands out. You also know when it's an Omar Gandhi project. What is your relationship like with the surrounding areas of the places that your beautiful projects end up? Because they always belong, but they always stand out. And it's a fine line.
I think in terms of belonging, it's really taking the time, whether it's here or it's in a neighborhood in Toronto or in kind of the mountains in BC.
Yeah.
It's about really understanding a place, being terrified of being sued. So really understanding the elements and, the things that you need to actually, pay attention to. And then in terms of, it standing out, we just have an enormous amount of fun. I would say like kind of childish fun in the office, where we often think of the architecture as something anthropomorphic or a creature, So it's almost, you could imagine it coming to life.
So can I ask how you approach the creative process of any project?
I think first it's about meeting the client, and kind of trying to get to know them a little bit. And whether it's with the land or with the ambition of the client, it really has to sort of align.
Yeah.
We say no to a lot of work, but once we do agree to take it on, it's about spending some time on the property and really understanding, what's important, the views and the climate and, the surrounding area and the materials that they use. But then I'd say that the other part is finding a peculiar sort of edge to it, right?
That's what you do.
Yeah, that's what I do. So whether it's in a rural area or in the city, I always sort of think of our projects as being related to what's around it. It's just sort of like the weird sibling, right? Like it's related, but it's definitely kind of different and odd in some exaggerated way.
Yeah. One of my favorites, a project like Rabbit Snare Gorge. How did that come about?
We were designing it on one property, and then it kind of moved locations, and it was about kind of taking advantage of these crazy views and telling a story about the property. The property was sold by a guy who had lived there. It was in his family for like 300 years or something.
Wow.
And he explained that this was a place where, as children, you would learn how to snare rabbits. And so we took that. That's where the name came from. But again, it was really understanding where the building was going to go, but then really kind of drawing peculiar things like that hoop over the entry. Again, that was the product of collaboration.
Right.
With these kids in New York, and with Peter Braithwaite, who worked for me at the time.
Yeah.
And so we worked very closely on that together in our really young studio. So, the best things come from people working together.
Yeah. Well, you've received selfies of my wife and I in front of Rabbit Snare Gorge, and it's not easy to find. It's not easy to find, and it was like the first thing we did when we got to Inverness. We're like, where is Omar's Rabbit Snare Gorge? And we sent you a selfie of us, and you could see the smiles on our faces.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of takes you back to being a kid and just being excited, right? About these memories sort of come back to you. And I wouldn't say that it's like a conscious effort to do that. I think it's us just being a little bit childlike.
That's nice. And what do you find is what are the benefits about doing business in the Maritimes to doing them in Ontario or indeed in the States or anywhere else?
Well, the landscape, obviously, but you know, it is different. I can say now, after several years of having our Toronto office, when people are building something over here, it's a really special time in their lives.
Yeah.
And I'd say there's a lot more trust, and that maybe there's even a belief in design. You know, it's a very different experience. There's no other place I would have wanted or could have built this practice. We get a lot of leeway here, and a lot of, I think, people have belief in our work and the process.
So what are your favorite things to do and favorite places to go in Atlantic Canada?
I feel like I'm experiencing it more. I'm biking a lot now, so I'm, you know, kind of learning about places like that, but I'm kind of spoiled with our job, right? So. You know, last weekend, I flew to St. John's, Newfoundland for like 6 hours to have 3 meetings. We're doing 3 houses there.
Oh, wow.
On like the most incredible, mind-blowing properties you can imagine.
Yeah.
You know, I've spent a lot of time at Cap Pelé this year in New Brunswick. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just learning more and more about these places, for sure.
So your studio is down on the Halifax waterfront, which is obviously a beautiful spot, but what is it about there that made that the natural space for your creative minds?
It was about finding a place where I felt like we could be messy.
Right.
You know, it was affordable. The area that we're in, it's been filled with artists for years. So there's a lot of shops and, you know, banging and clanging and, you know, like a lot of people making things. And so, you know, it's in proximity to NASCAD. There's also like such a rich history about the place. It's part of the Pier 21 complex. And so the building we're in, it's actually called the Immigration Annex, where when people pass through, they would have been processed through this building. So there's, you know, such a significant history to it, but honestly, it's been amazing being in that area. There's a real culture.
Wow, this is awesome. You have this beautiful space in Halifax. You also obviously have an office in Toronto. What do you like about having a presence in both cities?
Well, I mean, I love, you know, being here. You know, this is home for me now, but what's nice about being back there is that's, you know, where I'm from and my family and, you know, a lot of my friends, and it's just kind of the complete opposite. So I would say it's sort of a complementary fit.
I know one of the projects you're working on right now is with our mutual friend Matty Matheson, who is always singing your praises. What's he like to work with, and what can you tell us about the project?
Well, I mean, as soon as the project started, they ended up, him and his kind of group of partners ended up renting the spot right next to ours in the same building. And so he's kind of in our office all the time, like on our couch, lying down. And he's one of the sweetest people I've ever met. He certainly is well-versed in architecture and art. So, you know, he's a really smart guy. He brings a lot of ideas to the table. It's been several years now that we've been working with him. So hoping to open the restaurant soon.
That is, it's like my 2 favorite things combined. And what else are you working on right now?
Well, we're working on projects all over the place. So, you know, we have a cottage we're working on in the Okanagan, one in Oakville, the restaurant. We have a municipal building we're doing in Lunenburg right now. You know, we're obviously deep in the competition for the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia right now. Part of a huge collaboration on that.
Which looks incredible, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Changing the kind of work that we do and focusing a lot more on public work.
Omar is a very passionate, he's always very excited about projects, but he's also a great collaborator, so he really likes to work with the team to kind of pull the best ideas forward in terms of design. There's kind of a great mentorship culture as well for people like me who are just starting out. Having direct access to kind of the partner like Omar is pretty rare in an architecture office.
Well, this looks fun. This
Yes.
looks like the kind of fun. What can you tell me about this?
Well, this is a cottage. It's called the Jib House.
Wow.
It's perched on a piece of land on the southwest corner of Chester Village for an amazing client who, is a real supporter of the arts. And it really has a 270-degree view of the ocean. So you're looking out at individual islands.
Can I ask what that is?
Believe it or not, that's actually a hot tub.
No way.
Yeah.
That
So
is
there's
awesome.
there's a huge cliff here and then an elaborate landscape and a long pool with a pool house. The pool house is unbelievable. But yeah, this is a built-in cast-in-place concrete hot tub that's sort of perched up. Hey, do you want to go see it?
I would love to go see it.
We can go.
Oh
Let's
my
go.
God, you're joking. Let's do it. Let's go. Well, first of all, wow. I mean, what am I looking at here?
Well, actually, what that is that's your hot tub.
That's it. Wow. It looks different to how I last saw it. I mean, everything about, and what are we standing on?
This, believe it or not, is a temporary structure covering the pool right now.
I mean, how do you even begin a project like this?
Honestly, it takes an amazing client.
Right.
It takes an amazing client and a property like this, right? So, sometimes when you draw your wildest sort of fantasies on paper like this, sometimes it ends up happening. And it really takes a client who's really interested in pushing the envelope, telling a story, but also not afraid to do something a little bit different than what everyone else is doing.
I mean, this kind of fits into what we were saying earlier about it feels like it belongs, but it also is just utterly unique. Tell me about the inside.
Well, you actually enter, obviously, on the other side, and the profile of the house, it actually feels very much like the buildings that are surrounding it. It's very wide, but it's low, because you're almost entering at grade. You're actually entering on the top level. When you go inside, you then navigate a circular wood stair, very nautical, that takes you down into the living room, and you see 2 stories of glass looking out at this insane view.
How would you even describe the design inspiration behind something like this?
It's really about, abiding by certain traditional principles and pushing it as far as we could. So, we have cedar shingles on the roof, we have cedar shingles on the wall, we have limestone on the wall. So it's a very mid-century palette that really becomes sort of gray-toned and very soft in hue over time. So on the one side, it's colossal, but each of the compartments of the house itself look out to different views so that depending on where you are, you're experiencing a different part of the landscape.
Wow.
So then there's the pool house at the end of the pool. And the entire glass wall opens up so that it becomes almost an extension of the landscape. Around the back side, you actually have a red cedar, open slatted shower.
I mean, there must be times with projects like this that you just think, I'm going to keep this for myself.
Well, there are no projects like this, right? I mean, it's a thing all in its own. But at the end of the day, even when we, hand the keys over and they move in, of course, we're friends with the clients, but we get to keep that little model in the office. So there's a little bit of it that we get to retain, I think. But
that's the little baby part that you get to kind of own forever.
Exactly.
So what advice would you give to an aspiring architect in Atlantic Canada looking to further and grow and build their career in this region?
Well, a few things, I think. One is it doesn't start with this, right? I was doing decks and little renovations for, a draftsman for the first year or two, and little renovations inside. And then it escalated, of course. But I'd say be selective, make every project your best project, do the best that you can with that. But also tell a story about this place. It's an amazing place, and people around the world, they want to learn more about it. So I'd say, through the architecture, we tell stories, we tell a larger narrative through the materials and the forms and the people who live in there. I think that's how you really make the work as accessible as possible to a wider audience.
That is beautiful, and that could also apply to almost any creative medium.
Yeah.
That is amazing. I can't thank you enough for this amazing experience.
Yeah, man.
Really inspiring stuff. Thank you, brother. I will see you back here in a year for the
grand opening
party. Yeah. Let's live that dream. Thank you.